The maintenance corridor on Nexus Station 7 smelled like oil and recycled air. Dae-sung wiped his hands on his uniform and examined the broken ventilation panel. He was a man in his late 30s with dark hair starting to show gray at the temples. Nothing about him stood out. He looked like any other station worker finishing another long shift. The panel clicked back into place. Dae-sung tested it once, then gathered his tools. His movements were efficient and calm, the kind that came from years of practice. He had been working on the station for 3 years now, and most people barely noticed him. As he walked through the main plaza, dozens of alien species moved around him. The insect-like Krillix clicked and chittered as they haggled over trade goods. Tall, crystalline Vethrons glowed with soft inner light as they discussed philosophy. Massive Gornath warriors stomped past in their heavy armor. The graceful Celerii floated by on anti-gravity platforms. Humans were a minority here, one of the newer species in the galactic community. Dae-sung stopped at a small cafe run by an old human named Tae-young. The elderly man smiled and poured him coffee without asking. They had known each other for years, though they rarely spoke about the past. "Quiet day?" Tae-young asked. "Fixed 12 panels, 3 doors, and a water recycler," Dae-sung replied. He sipped his coffee and watched the crowds. A young woman approached their table. Hee-jin worked in communications and often took her breaks here. She was in her mid-20s with bright eyes and an easy smile. She was one of the few people on the station who actually talked to Dae-sung regularly. "Hello, Dae-sung. Still fixing things?" she asked. "Someone has to," he said with a small smile. They chatted about nothing important. Station gossip, the food quality in the mess hall, a new shipment of Earth vegetables, normal things, boring things. Dae-sung preferred it that way. The peaceful moment ended when shouting erupted near the cargo docks. Dae-sung's eyes shifted immediately to the source. His body language changed for just a second, becoming alert and focused, before he forced himself to relax again. A massive Gornath stood over a human cargo handler named Sung-ho. The alien was nearly 8 feet tall, with thick gray skin and 4 arms. His name was Throck, and he ran a mercenary company that operated from the station. He was known for being aggressive and violent. "Weak little human," Throck growled. "You damaged my cargo." Sung-ho held up his hands. "Sir, the scanner shows it was already damaged when it arrived. I just logged it in the system." "Round. Log. Logged it. Logged it. In the system. You lie." Throck grabbed Sung-ho by the shirt and lifted him off the ground. Most people moved away from the confrontation. The station had security, but they were slow to respond to incidents in this section. Gornath mercenaries were dangerous, and most beings avoided them. Dae-sung stood up. Hee-jin grabbed his arm. "Don't. Let security handle it. Unplen. 1. He gently removed her hand and walked toward Throck. His tools hung from his belt, making small clinking sounds with each step. He moved neither fast nor slow, just steady. "Put him down," Dae-sung said quietly. Throck turned, still holding Sung-ho in the air. The Gornath's eyes widened in surprise, then narrowed in amusement. "A maintenance worker wants to fight?" "Wah, I want you to put him down and walk away," Dae-sung repeated. His voice was calm, almost gentle. "There's no need for this." Several other Gornath mercenaries moved closer, surrounding them. The crowd backed away further. Hee-jin looked terrified, but she didn't run. Tae-young watched from the cafe with an unreadable expression. Throck dropped Sung-ho, who scrambled away. The massive alien took a step toward Dae-sung, using his size to intimidate. "You think you can tell me what to do, little human?" Dae-sung didn't move back. He didn't move forward either. He just stood there, looking up at the Gornath with steady eyes. Something in his gaze made Throck pause. It wasn't fear or anger or aggression. It was something else. Something cold and infinitely patient. "I'm asking nicely," Dae-sung said. "Please walk away." For a long moment, nobody moved. Throck raised one of his 4 fists, preparing to strike. Daesung's stance didn't change at all, but something about his stillness was wrong. It was the stillness of a predator, not prey. Station security finally arrived, 6 armed guards in body armor. The lead officer, a human woman named So-Ra, moved between them. Throck! Back off. No fighting on the station. Throck stared at Daesung for another moment, then laughed. Another time, maintenance man. He walked away with his mercenaries, but he kept glancing back. So-Ra turned to Daesung. You okay? Fine, he said. Just helping a coworker. Be careful, So-Ra warned. Throck doesn't forget things like this. Daesung nodded and returned to the cafe. Jin rushed over. Are you crazy? He could have killed you. Maybe, Daesung said. He finished his coffee like nothing had happened, but something had happened. Word spread quickly through the station's underworld. The Gornoth mercenaries talked about the strange human who didn't show fear. Other species heard about it. People started noticing Daesung more. Throck became obsessed. He sent his people to ask questions about the maintenance worker. Who was he? Where did he come from? What was his background? The answers they found were frustratingly vague. Just a maintenance technician who transferred to the station 3 years ago. Before that, his records were sealed by human military encryption. That only made Throck more curious. Why would a simple maintenance worker have military-grade security on his files? Several days passed. Daesung continued his work, but he noticed people watching him now. Aliens who never paid attention before suddenly seemed interested. He kept his head down, and his routine steady. Jin found him repairing a door panel in a quiet corridor. People are asking about you, she said. Mercenaries, traders, even some of the Silari information brokers. What did you do before coming here? Daesung didn't look up from his work. I fixed things. That's not an answer. He finally met her eyes. There was something ancient in his gaze, something that didn't match his ordinary appearance. Tell anyone who asks that they should stop looking. For their own good. That's just going to make them look harder, Jin said. Daesung zigged. That night, deep in the station's data networks, multiple parties worked to crack the encryption on one maintenance worker's past. They didn't know it yet, but they were about to discover why some files stay sealed. They were about to learn that the most dangerous humans don't look dangerous at all. They were about to learn about the Reaper. Jiwoo was a Silari information broker, one of the best on Nexus Station 7. Her species naturally floated on anti-gravity platforms, and their 3 eyes could process data faster than most computers. She had been hired by 6 different parties to investigate the mysterious maintenance worker, and the challenge excited her. Human military encryption was notoriously difficult to crack. The younger species had learned from watching older civilizations make mistakes. Their security protocols were aggressive and layered. Jiwoo had been working on Daesung's files for 5 days straight. Her workspace was filled with holographic displays showing code cascading across screens. Other Silari worked nearby, their platforms bobbing gently as they traded information with clients. This was the information district of the station, where secrets were bought and sold like any other commodity. Got something, one of her assistants said. A young Silari named Kyung-Soo, who specialized in human systems. There's a reference file that isn't encrypted. Just a code name. Jiwoo floated over to examine it. Her 3 eyes focused on the single word displayed on the screen. The Reaper. The Reaper. The name meant nothing to her. She ran it through her database of known human operatives, mercenaries, and military personnel. Nothing came up. But the file structure around that name was massive. Hundreds of mission reports, all heavily encrypted. All classified at the highest levels of human military security. This is unusual, Kyung-Soo said. Most human special operators have files maybe a tenth this size. This person was involved in operations across 15 years. Multiple war zones. The encryption level suggests he reported directly to Earth government leadership. Jiwoo's business instincts tingled. This information would be valuable. Very valuable. She doubled her efforts, using techniques that skirted the edge of legality. 3 days later, she finally broke through one of the smaller files. What she found made her doubt her own translation software. The kill count couldn't be right. No single being could be responsible for that many enemy casualties. She checked again. The number didn't change. According to this file alone, the Reaper had killed over 3,000 enemy combatants in a single campaign. She opened another file. This one described a boarding action on an enemy capital ship. The Reaper had entered alone, through a damaged airlock, and systematically disabled the entire crew. Alone. 1 human against 800 enemies. Another file showed medical reports. The Reaper had survived injuries that should have killed him multiple times. Vacuum exposure, radiation poisoning, plasma burns covering 40% of his body. Each time, he recovered and returned to combat. Jiwoo began to understand why these files were so heavily protected. This wasn't just a soldier. This was something humans created and then tried to hide. She sent out her first batch of information to clients. Within hours, the station's underworld was buzzing with rumors. The quiet maintenance worker was actually a legendary human warrior. The Reaper, a name that meant nothing to most species, but everything to those who had fought in the Zerion War. The Zerion War had ended 15 years ago. It was a brutal conflict between humanity and the Zerion Empire, an aggressive species that had tried to claim human colonies. Most aliens barely remembered it, but those who fought in it remembered one name above all others. An old Gornath veteran named Kraltok sat in Taeyang's cafe when he heard the rumors. His 4 hands shook as he held his drink. The Reaper is here? On this station? You know that name? Another patron asked. Kraltok's eyes went distant. I fought for the Zerions as a mercenary. We boarded a human research station to steal data. The Reaper was there. He killed 40 of us, in the dark. We never saw him coming. Just found our people, one by one, dead, in the corridors. We ran. Professional warriors ran from one human. The story spread like fire. More veterans came forward with their own tales. The Reaper, who appeared on enemy ships like a ghost. The Reaper, who survived impossible situations. The Reaper who never missed, never hesitated, never stopped. Throck heard the rumors and laughed them off at first. Then he talked to older members of his crew. They confirmed the stories. The Reaper was real, and he was more dangerous than anything they had ever faced. He's just a maintenance worker now, Throck said, but his voice lacked confidence. He nearly killed you with just a look. One of his officers reminded him. Maybe. The stories are true. Meanwhile, Haijin was doing her own investigation. She used her communications access to dig through old news reports from the Zerion War. Most were heavily censored, but she found fragments, references to a special operator, a lone human who completed missions that entire battalions failed to achieve. She found Dae-sung in one of the lower maintenance levels, working on a power relay. We need to talk, she said. He didn't stop working. About what? The Reaper. His hands paused for just a second, then continued. That's not a name I use anymore. So it's true, Heejin said softly. Dae-sung put down his tools and looked at her. For the first time, she saw him not as a friendly coworker, but as what he really was. A weapon that chose to fix things, instead of break them. I was him, Dae-sung said. Past tense. That person doesn't exist anymore. People are scared, Heejin said. The aliens who fought in the war, they remember you. They're telling everyone. Let them talk, Dae-sung said. I'm not that person anymore. I did terrible things in that war. Things I can't take back. When it ended, I retired. I came here to be ordinary. To fix air recyclers and door panels. To not hurt anyone ever again. Heijin sat down on a nearby crate. What was it like? The war? Daesung was quiet for a long moment. It was necessary. The Xerians were burning our colonies, killing civilians. Someone had to stop them, and I was good at it. Too good. By the end, I wasn't a person anymore. I was just a tool. The Reaper. When the war ended, I had to find out if there was anything human left inside me. And is there? Heijin asked. He smiled slightly. I'm still figuring that out. Every day I wake up and choose to fix things instead of break them. I think maybe there is. Back in the information district, Jiwoo was finishing her analysis. She had sold the basic information already, but now she was compiling a complete profile, the kind of document that governments would pay huge amounts for. She reviewed the final document. The Reaper had operated in every major theater of the Xerian War. He specialized in impossible missions: hostage rescue, assassination, sabotage, shipboarding, always alone, always successful. But what interested Jiwoo most was the end of his service record. The Reaper had simply retired after the war. No discharge, no explanation. He had just walked away, and the human government let him. That suggested either they owed him something tremendous, or they were afraid of what would happen if they tried to stop him. She published her final report. Within an hour, every major power on the station had a copy. Within a day, governments across the galaxy were reading it. Taeyang found Daesung eating dinner in the small mess hall that evening. The old man sat down across from him. They know, Taeyang said simply. I figured they would eventually. Daesung replied. What are you going to do? Daesung took a bite of his food and chewed thoughtfully. Same thing I do every day. Fix things. Help people. Live quietly. Some of the aliens are scared now. Others are curious. Throck and his mercenaries are nervous. They know they almost started a fight they couldn't win. Good, Daesung said. Maybe they'll leave the human workers alone now. Taeyang smiled. Always protecting others. Some things never change. Some things, Daesung agreed. But I have changed. I'm not the Reaper anymore. I'm just a maintenance worker who wants to be left alone. But even as he said it, both men knew the truth. The galaxy had learned his secret. Life was about to get much more complicated, and somewhere out there, old enemies were hearing the news that the Reaper was alive and had been found. The quiet life Daesung had built was about to end. The alarm screamed through Nexus Station 7 at 3 a.m. Daesung woke instantly, his body reacting before his mind fully engaged. Years of combat training never really went away. He was dressed and moving toward the command center within 2 minutes. The main plaza was chaos. Aliens ran in every direction, some toward shelters, others toward ships in the docking bays. Security forces were scrambling to their positions. Daesung grabbed a passing guard. What's happening? He demanded. Xerion fleet, the guard gasped. They just dropped out of hyperspace. 20 warships. They're demanding we surrender someone to them or they'll destroy the station. Daesung's blood went cold. He already knew who they wanted. He made his way to the command center where Sora, the station commander, was coordinating with her officers. Her face was tight with stress as she barked orders. When she saw Daesung, her expression became complicated. They want you, she said flatly. Their commander is named Vex Thar. He says you're responsible for destroying his homeworld. He wants revenge. Daesung nodded slowly. He remembered that operation. A Xerion military base, hidden on their homeworld. The mission was to destroy it before they could launch a final attack on Earth. The explosion had been larger than expected. Much larger. How much time did he give you? Daesung asked. 6 hours, Sora replied. Then they start firing. I'll surrender myself, Daesung said immediately. No reason for everyone else to die. Like hell you will, a voice said from behind him. Heijin stepped forward with several other humans. Sung Ho was there, along with a dozen workers from various sections. We don't abandon our people. We don't abandon our people. Taeyang pushed through the crowd. The girl's right. We protect our own. Sora held up her hand for silence. This station has over 10,000 beings on it. We can't fight a Zirion fleet. Our weapons are minimal. We're a trading hub, not a military base. Daesung looked around the room. At the frightened aliens. At the determined humans. At the massive warships visible through the command center windows. He made his decision. I have a plan, he said. But I need access to the maintenance tunnels, the reactor core, and docking bay 7. Sora studied him. What are you thinking? I'm thinking that the Reaper was very good at taking apart enemy ships, Daesung said quietly. And I'm thinking a maintenance worker knows every weak point in a space station's systems. Put those two together, and maybe we have a chance. For the next 4 hours, the station became a hive of activity. Daesung moved through the maintenance tunnels with Sung Ho and other human workers. They started modifying systems, rerouting power, setting up unexpected surprises. You were military too, Daesung said to Sung Ho as they worked. Marines, Sung Ho confirmed. Served 6 years. Most of the human workers here are veterans. We came out here to leave the war behind, same as you. More humans appeared as word spread. A woman named Min Seo, who worked in medical, turned out to be a combat medic. A cargo handler named Jae Hyun had been a demolitions expert. A cook named Woo Jin was former intelligence. They all fell into their old roles, like putting on comfortable clothes. We're setting up medical stations on 3 levels, Min Seo reported. If they breach the hull, we'll have triage ready. Jae Hyun grinned as he wired explosive charges into the docking bay doors. If they try to board us, they're in for a surprise. Quote, in round. Quote, next way. In round. Daesung coordinated everything with calm efficiency. This was what he was good at. Taking impossible situations and finding ways to survive them. The other humans followed his orders without question, recognizing the authority that came from experience. The aliens on the station watched in amazement as the humans transformed from ordinary workers into a military unit. Throck and his Gornath mercenaries offered their services, impressed by the organization they were seeing. You fight with us? Throck asked Daesung. If it comes to that, Daesung replied. Position your warriors at the main access points. If they board, we make them pay for every meter. Jiwoo floated up to the command center with data. I've analyzed their fleet composition. 20 warships, but only 6 are true military vessels. The rest are converted civilian ships. They're raiders, not a proper navy. Still enough to destroy us, Sora said. Unless we change the equation, Daesung said. He pointed to a small shuttle in docking bay 7. I'm going out there. Everyone started talking at once. Hyjin grabbed his arm. That's suicide. You can't fight a fleet alone. I think. I'm not going to fight a fleet, Daesung said. He looked at Sora. I'm going to board their flagship and kill their commander. Without leadership, the rest will break. That's still suicide, Sora said. It's what I do, Daesung replied. It's what I've always done. One person, impossible odds, complete the mission. He walked toward his quarters, and the others followed. Inside, he opened a hidden panel in the wall. Behind it was equipment that didn't belong to a maintenance worker. A combat suit, black and scarred from years of use. Weapons that were old but perfectly maintained. Knives, a pistol, a rifle, tools of his former trade. Daesung began putting on the suit. The transformation was remarkable. The quiet maintenance worker disappeared. In his place stood something different. Something dangerous. The armor fit him perfectly, like a second skin. His movements became more fluid, more predatory. I haven't worn this in 15 years, he said softly. Hoped I never would again. Min Seo stepped forward. At least let me check you over first. Make sure you're fit for combat. She ran her medical scanner over him. Her eyes widened. You have so much scar tissue. Old injuries that never healed properly. Your bones have been broken and reset multiple times. How are you even walking? Practice. Dae-sung said simply. He loaded his weapons with practiced ease. Each movement was economical, efficient. Muscle memory from thousands of hours of training. He checked his equipment twice, then looked at the assembled group. If I don't make it back, don't surrender, he said. Use the modifications we made to the station. Fight smart. Humans are good at surviving. You'll make it back, Heejin said. She was crying but trying to hide it. You're the Reaper, Dae-sung smiled slightly. That's what I'm afraid of. He made his way to Docking Bay 7. The small shuttle waited there, looking fragile compared to the warships outside. Taeyong met him at the airlock. One last thing, the old man said. He handed Dae-sung a small object, a medal from the Xerion War. Maybe you were right then, but you deserve it now. For choosing peace, for trying to be better. Dae-sung took the medal and put it in a pocket. Thank you. Give them hell, Reaper. Dae-sung entered the shuttle and sealed the airlock. Through the window, he could see the Xerion fleet waiting. 20 warships between him and their commander. Impossible odds. He had faced worse. The shuttle's engines ignited. Dae-sung's hands moved across the controls with the skill of someone who had flown hundreds of combat missions. The small craft detached from the station and accelerated toward the enemy fleet. Inside the command center, everyone watched on the sensors. So-Ra activated the station-wide communication system. Attention all personnel. This is your commander. We are under attack by hostile forces. We will defend this station with everything we have. Humans and aliens alike. We stand together. That's what Nexus Station is about. Unity. And if anyone can show us how to win against impossible odds, it's the man in that shuttle. It's the Reaper. On the sensors, the small shuttle entered the debris field between the station and the fleet. It weaved and dodged, using the wreckage of old ships for cover. Weapons fire from the Xerion fleet lit up space, but the shuttle kept moving. He's heading straight for their flagship, an officer reported. Of course he is, So-Ra said. He's going to cut off the head. Dae-sung's voice crackled over the communication system. Tell Vex-Thar that the Reaper accepts his challenge. Tell him I'm coming for him. Alone. The shuttle disappeared into the shadow of the Xerion flagship. The real battle was about to begin. Dae-sung cut the shuttle's engines and drifted toward the Xerion flagship in the dark. The massive warship was nearly a kilometer long, bristling with weapons and armor. He had studied Xerion ship designs during the war. Every strength, every weakness. That knowledge was about to save his life. He maneuvered the shuttle toward a damaged section of hull near the engineering decks. Battle scars from some previous fight. The metal was warped, and the repair work was sloppy. Perfect. Dae-sung sealed his helmet and opened the shuttle's airlock. Space was silent and cold. He pushed off from the shuttle, with magnetic grips on his gloves and boots, moving carefully across the hull. Behind him, the shuttle drifted away, set on autopilot to circle the ship and create a distraction. The damaged hull section had a small gap, barely large enough for a human. Dae-sung wedged himself inside and found the inner airlock. He attached a bypass device to the control panel. The door cycled open with a hiss. He was inside. The corridor was empty and dimly lit. Emergency lighting only. Dae-sung moved forward silently, his rifle ready. He knew where he needed to go. The command deck was 18 levels up, in the center of the ship. Between him and that goal were approximately 800 Xerion crew members. He started climbing. The first Xerion patrol found him 3 levels up. 4 warriors in combat armor, walking their routine. They didn't see Dae-sung until he was already among them. His knife took the first one in the neck joint of his armor. The second died to a silenced pistol shot. The third and fourth tried to raise their weapons, but Daesung moved like water, fast and fluid. In 10 seconds, all four were down. He dragged their bodies into a storage room and kept moving. Back on Nexus Station, the crew watched with tension. Their sensors could track Daesung's position inside the ship by his suit's signal. But they couldn't see what was happening. "He's moving up through the ship," an officer reported. "Deck by deck. Any alarms triggered?" Sora asked. "None. He's moving like a ghost." Suddenly, 6 ships from the Zirion fleet broke formation and headed toward the station. Sora's jaw tightened. "Looks like they're not waiting for their deadline." Battle stations. Heejin coordinated with the various species on the station. Throck's Gornoth mercenaries took defensive positions. Krillix traders armed themselves with makeshift weapons. Even the peaceful Vethrons prepared to fight. The modifications Daesung had made to the station's systems came online. "Firing solution ready," a weapons officer reported. "Hold until they're in range," Sora commanded. "Make every shot count." Inside the Zirion flagship, Daesung had reached the main security hub. 20 guards protected the room. He couldn't sneak past this many, so he didn't try. He threw 2 flashbang grenades through the door and followed them in. The Zirions were blinded and disoriented. Daesung moved through them, systematically. His rifle barking short, controlled bursts. He had learned long ago to turn off the part of his mind that felt. When the room was clear, he accessed the security terminal. His fingers flew across the alien interface. He had cracked Zirion systems before. Within minutes, he had control of the ship's internal sensors and life support. He shut down the lights on 3 decks, vented atmosphere in 2 corridors, locked blast doors throughout the ship, and then he started hunting. The Zirion crew began to panic. Something was inside their ship, moving through the darkness. Warriors went missing. Patrols didn't report back. The ones who survived encounters described a human in black armor who appeared from shadows and disappeared just as quickly. Commander Vexthar watched from his command deck as his crew fell apart. "The security system is compromised," an officer reported. "We can't track his position." "Then flood the decks with warriors. Search every room." But sending warriors in groups just gave Daesung more targets. He ambushed them in corridors. Set traps using the ship's own systems. Used psychological warfare. Letting some warriors live just long enough to spread fear to their comrades. This was what humans were good at. Not just fighting, but understanding fear. Understanding that broken morale was as deadly as any weapon. On Nexus Station, the first wave of Zirion ships entered weapons range. Sora gave the order. "Fire." The station's modified weapons systems opened up. Daesung had rerouted power from non-essential systems, giving the weapons 3 times their normal output. The first Zirion ship took direct hits to its engines and spun out of control. Throck and his mercenaries manned the secondary guns, their experience showing. Krillix traders operated point defense systems, their quick reflexes perfect for tracking incoming missiles. Jaehyun's explosive traps activated when one Zirion ship tried to dock, blowing a massive hole in its hull. "They're breaking off!" an officer shouted. The Zirion ships retreated, damaged and confused, but Sora knew the reprieve was temporary. "They'll regroup and try again. We need to hold until Daesung completes his mission." Inside the flagship, Daesung had reached the deck below command. Between him and Vexthar were 50 elite guards, the best warriors in the Zirion fleet. He studied them through a maintenance hatch, calculating odds. Not good, even for him. He needed a different approach. He accessed the ship's systems again and found what he was looking for. The ship's reactor was running hot, all power diverted to weapons and shields. If he could cause a containment breach in one of the secondary reactors, it would force an emergency lockdown of that entire section, including the route to the command deck. Daesung moved through the maintenance tunnels toward engineering. He encountered a patrol and eliminated them quickly. But one got off a warning shot. Alarms screamed through the ship. He's in engineering, someone shouted over the ship's communication system. Daesung ran. Behind him, dozens of warriors were converging on his position. He reached the reactor control room and sealed the door. It would only hold for a few minutes. He worked fast, overriding safety protocols and pushing the reactor past its limits. The containment field started to fluctuate. Warning lights flashed red. The door exploded inward. Zirion warriors poured through, firing weapons. Daesung dove behind a console as plasma bolts scorched the air above him. He returned fire, dropping 3 warriors, but there were too many. A bolt caught him in the shoulder, burning through armor. Pain exploded through his body. Another bolt grazed his leg. He was pinned down, outgunned, with nowhere to run. This was it. After everything, this was where the Reaper would die. But then the reactor alarm reached critical. The containment field collapsed. Emergency systems kicked in, flooding the room with suppressant foam and sealing all the blast doors. The warriors were caught mid-charge, trapped by the safety protocols. Daesung used the chaos to escape through a maintenance shaft. His shoulder screamed in agony. Blood ran down his leg. But he kept moving. The mission wasn't complete. The reactor breach had created exactly the distraction he needed. Half the ship's warriors were dealing with the engineering crisis. The command deck was now vulnerable. He climbed one more level, emerging in a corridor outside the command center. The 50 elite guards were still there, but they were distracted, confused by the alarms and the damage reports flooding in. Daesung checked his ammunition. Low. Very low. He was wounded, exhausted, and facing the best warriors the Zirians had. He thought of Haijin and Taeyang back on the station. Of all the people depending on him, he stood up and walked toward the command deck doors. The elite guards saw him and raised their weapons. 50 against 1. They should have been confident. But something about the way the human moved, bleeding and determined, made them hesitate. "I'm here for Vex Thar," Daesung said clearly. "Anyone who doesn't want to die today can step aside." For a moment, nobody moved. Then, Daesung raised his rifle, and the corridor exploded into violence. This was the final battle. This was where everything would be decided. The Reaper had come for his target, and nothing would stop him now. The fight lasted 90 seconds, but it felt like an eternity. Daesung moved through the elite guards like a storm, his rifle barking until it ran dry. Then his pistol. Then his knife. Every movement was precise, honed by years of combat. He used their numbers against them, forcing them to crowd together in the narrow corridor where their advantage became a weakness. Bodies fell. Daesung took more hits. A blade cut across his ribs. A plasma bolt burned his thigh. Pain was just information now, something to be processed and ignored. He had learned long ago how to turn off everything except the mission. The last guard fell, and Daesung stood alone before the command deck doors. Blood dripped from a dozen wounds. His armor was scorched and cracked, but he was still moving. He overrode the door controls and stepped inside. The command deck was circular, with displays showing the battle around the station. Vexthar stood in the center, a tall Zerion with scarred purple skin and 3 eyes burning with hatred. He wore ceremonial armor and carried a weapon that hummed with energy. "So you made it," Vexthar said. "The Reaper himself. I've waited 15 years for this." "You attacked a civilian station," Daesung replied. His voice was steady despite his injuries. "Threatened innocent people. For what? Revenge? You destroyed my homeworld," Vexthar roared. "My family died in the fires you created. Your government hid a military base under a civilian city," Daesung said. "They used your families as shields. I did what I had to do to stop them from killing mine." "Excuses." Vexthar activated his weapon. "You killed thousands. Millions were saved." Daesung said quietly. "But yes, I killed thousands. I carry those deaths every day. I see their faces when I sleep. That's why I retired. That's why I tried to become something better than a killer. You cannot escape what you are, Vexthar said. He charged. The fight was brutal and desperate. Vexthar was younger, stronger, and uninjured. Daesung was running on willpower alone. The Zirion's energy blade sliced through the air, forcing Daesung to dodge and weave. One cut got through his guard and opened a deep gash across his chest. Daesung fell back, blood streaming. His knife felt heavy in his hand. He was going to die here. He had known it was a possibility when he left the station. But at least everyone else would be safe. Vexthar raised his weapon for the killing blow. Daesung met his eyes. The war is over. Let it end. Daesung. 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 The blade came down. Daesung rolled aside at the last second and drove his knife up under Vexthar's arm, into the gap in his ceremonial armor. The Zerion commander gasped and staggered back. For a moment, they stared at each other. Two warriors, from opposite sides of a long-finished war, both carrying impossible burdens. Vexthar dropped to his knees. "Why spare me on the station?" he whispered. "You could have killed me when I first announced myself." "Because I'm tired of killing," Daesung said. "Because the war is over, and we both need to let go." "My people will never let go," Vexthar said. "The hatred runs too deep." "Then your people will die still hating," Daesung replied. "Is that what you want? More death? More revenge? When does it end?" Vexthar looked at the displays showing his fleet, showing the station where thousands of beings from hundreds of species live together. "How do you live with it? The things you've done?" I fix things," Daesung said simply. "Every air recycler I repair. Every broken door I mend. Every person I help. It doesn't erase what I did, but it reminds me that I can choose to be something else. You can too." The Zirion commander was silent for a long moment. Then, he reached up and activated his communication system. "All ships, stand down. The attack is over." "Commander," came a confused response. "I said stand down," Vexthar ordered. "Withdraw from the station. Return home. The war is over. It's been over for 15 years. Time we started acting like it." Daesung slumped against a wall, his strength finally giving out. Minseo's voice crackled in his helmet. "Daesung, your vital signs are critical. Hold on. We're coming for you." "Mission complete," he whispered. "Hostiles are withdrawing." Back on Nexus Station, cheers erupted through the command center. Sora allowed herself a small smile. The Zirion fleet was indeed pulling back, leaving the station intact. "Get medical teams ready," she ordered. "Our hero is going to need a lot of help." Within an hour, a rescue team reached the Zirion flagship. Vexthar had already ordered his warriors to stand down. They found Daesung barely conscious, bleeding heavily. Minseo and her medical staff worked frantically to stabilize him. "He's lost too much blood," Minseo said, her voice tight with worry. "We need to get him back now." "Active, Minseo." They carried him to the shuttle and rushed back to the station. The docking bay was crowded with humans and aliens alike, all waiting to see if the Reaper would survive. When the shuttle landed, Heijin pushed through the crowd, tears streaming down her face. "Is he alive?" she demanded. "Barely," Minseo said. "Now move. We need to get him to surgery." 3 days later, Daesung woke up in the medical center. His body was wrapped in bandages and connected to machines. Every part of him hurt, but he was alive. Minseo sat beside his bed, looking exhausted. "Welcome back," she said. "You were dead twice on the operating table. I brought you back both times. Thank you," Daesung whispered. The next week was a blur of recovery and visitors. Heijin came every day, bringing news from around the station. The Xerion fleet had left peacefully. Vex Thar had sent a message of apology to the station and to Dae-sung personally. The commander had resigned his position and was advocating for peace between his people and humanity. Throck visited, bringing flowers in his 4 hands. "I almost fought you," he said, shaking his head. "Probably," Dae-sung agreed with a slight smile. Ji-woo came with a datapad. "The galactic community is reacting to what happened. Humans are being viewed very differently now. Not as weak newcomers, but as a species that should be respected, maybe even feared." "I didn't do this for humanity's reputation," Dae-sung said. "I know," Ji-woo replied. "You did it to protect people. That's why it matters even more." 2 weeks after the battle, Dae-sung was finally cleared to leave medical. He walked slowly through the station, still healing. Everywhere he went, beings stopped to thank him, or simply nod with respect. It was deeply uncomfortable for someone who had spent 3 years trying to be invisible. He found his way to Taeyong's cafe. The old man poured him coffee without asking. "Just like always. They want to give you medals," Taeyong said. "The station commander, the human government, even some alien governments." "I don't want medals," Dae-sung said. "I figured. But there's something you should see." Taeyong pointed to the plaza. A group of young Krillix were gathered around an older member of their species, listening intently. Dae-sung recognized the older one as someone who had fought alongside the humans during the attack. "They're asking him about honor," Taeyong explained. "About courage and sacrifice. About how to protect others, even when you're afraid." The young ones across the station are doing the same thing. "You've become a teacher, whether you wanted to, or not." Over the following weeks, it became a pattern. Young warriors from various species would approach Dae-sung, asking for wisdom. He tried to refuse at first, but Heejin convinced him that sharing his hard-won lessons might do more good than any weapon ever could. So he talked to them about the cost of violence, about choosing peace when you're strong enough to choose war, about living with the consequences of your actions, about trying to be better than what the world made you. A human woman named Bo-Ra arrived on the station, sent by Earth government as a cultural ambassador. She helped manage the new relationships forming between humans and aliens. Heijin was promoted to liaison officer, coordinating between species. One evening, 2 months after the battle, Dae-sung returned to his small quarters. He had resumed his maintenance work, though now he had to stop frequently as beings wanted to talk to him. It was annoying but also strangely fulfilling. Heijin came by with a meal she had cooked. They ate together in comfortable silence. "Do you miss it?" she asked finally. Dae-sung thought about it carefully. "No. That person was good at one thing: destroying enemies. But this person, the one I am now, he's learning to build things. Build relationships. Build peace. It's harder work, but it's better work. The young warriors who come to talk to you, they're starting to understand that real strength is knowing when not to fight," Heijin said. "Maybe," Dae-sung said. "Or maybe they just like hearing war stories from an old maintenance worker." She laughed. "You're not that old." Later that night, Dae-sung stood at the observation window in the main plaza. He watched ships come and go, beings from 100 worlds living and working together. This was what he had fought for, even if he hadn't known it during the war. Not victory, peace. His reflection in the window showed a man with scars and gray hair, a man who had been a weapon and chose to become something else. The Reaper was gone. In his place was just Dae-sung, a maintenance worker who fixed things, and that was exactly who he wanted to be. A young Vethron approached hesitantly. "Excuse me, sir. I heard you once said something about choosing what you fix versus what you break. Could you explain what that means?" Dae-sung smiled. "I've got time. Let's get some coffee and talk about it." As they walked toward Taeyong's cafe, he looked up at the stars visible through the station's dome. Somewhere out there, old enemies were learning to let go of hatred. New friends were learning that strength came in many forms. And one ordinary-looking maintenance worker was teaching the galaxy that the most powerful choice any being could make was deciding who they wanted to be. The war was over. Life was beginning. And for the first time in 15 years, Dae Sung felt truly at peace.